So I've been a full-time content creator now for 5 years. And at the beginning of every year, I like to ask myself one important question. Is my job going to be safe this year? And I do that because this job in this industry simultaneously feels really real and really fake all at the same time. And it feels real because obviously there's a lot of money and attention coming into the space. We're hearing new headlines about the legitimacy of this space all the time. But it also feels quite fake because there isn't this long-standing history of creators like we know today. And there's not really a textbook on how to do this career correctly or how to do it correctly versus incorrectly. There's also this quote that I really like in the space that says, we're all sort of building mansions on rented land, meaning every decision I make from a business point of view, like my hiring decisions, the ideas that I want to pursue, all sort of depend on the platforms that I have to post on, like YouTube or Instagram, LinkedIn, Spotify. And if these platforms change their rules, I don't have a choice but to sort of follow what they're doing. And so all of this is to say, in 2026, I have a big question. As someone who is this aspiring filmmaker, this middle-class creator, is my job going to be safe? Do I feel good about this year? And that answer is both a yes and a no. So let's get into it. Part one is the yes. I think it's really obvious in 2025 that all the signals in the space are showing that the creator economy is growing. I mean, just follow where the money and attention is going. And, like the headlines, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, LinkedIn, questionably Snapchat. I don't actually really know what Snapchat's doing, but all of the main platforms have grown in watch time, and they're growing in the number of ad spend that is coming to these platforms. And in general, every signal I've gotten is that social media is growing. We're also seeing that the big incumbents in the space, the Amazon Primes, the studios like Paramount or like A24, these people are also embracing creators like they've never done it before. So just generally, there's a lot of signals there. And then also personally, like what I've seen, I was part of this wave of creators back in like 2023 and 2024 that were sort of embraced by these incumbents as well. For those that don't know, I hosted a Nickelodeon show when I was 22 and 23, and that was because of the TikToks that I posted. There were people, almost like these scouts, that saw my TikToks, and instead of going through the traditional path of auditioning, they used my TikToks as an audition, and I was able to join the Paramount family for a little bit. I think this past year in 2025, when I went to Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity, it was really obvious that companies that are really old and usually slow moving are finally embracing creators in a way that is different. I remember hearing from the chief marketing officers at Lowe's, the lumber yard, the construction shop. They're starting a creator program, and this was really common with these larger programs. Delta Airlines, same thing. They're getting creator programming onto their flights, and they're embracing creators like nothing else. Also, I've just realized I'm recording this on my iPad. It's the first video I've ever recorded on my iPad. I've been staring at this thing thinking it's the camera, but it's really that. So this is all new, which I'll get to. I think in 2025, if I was to sort of summarize that year for the creator economy, it almost feels like 50% of the world now knows what a creator is and believes that there's like legitimacy to these businesses that creators are forming, which is super exciting. It's awesome it's awesome to see that um, as someone who's a creator, obviously. And I think it's really important that in 2025, I really do believe that anyone with a phone, an idea, and just a little bit of consistency can make money off the internet. These are all incredible signals. This all makes me feel great about the place I'm in. And I think if you're a creator today, all of these things should make you feel a little bit more calm. So if every signal that I've received, from the headlines to listening to the large incumbents in the space, if every signal is screaming that the creator economy is growing, why am I pessimistic? Why do I have a pessimistic bone? Why do I have fear? And why did I start this video by saying, is my job safe? The answer is yes and no. Well, to start the no section, I think it's really important that we first realize that we've grouped every single person that uploads on the internet under this word creator. And we've given every single person, despite them maybe being 1,000-person media company like Mr. Beast, to a 2-person media company that has less than 1 million followers, but more than 100,000 followers, this guy as a creator. And maybe the person who just started making videos and accepted their first $1,000 brand deal. They use their iPhone and they record front-facing TikToks. They identify as a creator. We've grouped everyone under this word, and we're saying that this word is growing. My fear begins there, because when we say that the creator economy is growing, I think it's only growing for the top 20% of creators in the space, and the bottom 80%, the majority, are actually in trouble. I drew this diagram out right before. It might be flipped, but our space has a really long tail where a lot of the money and a lot of the attention, the real money, flows to the top 20% of creators, but the bottom 80% don't see all that much. And I'm someone that I think is straddling right on that line. I'm somewhere between the 79th percentile and the 81st percentile. I'm someone that is full-time, makes a little bit of money, has a couple employees, but at the same time, sort of at the mercy of the platforms. I think something I'll explain in just a second, what actually makes the top 20% versus the bottom 80%, because it's not just about money. But before I get into that, I think my fear stems from my experience in the space. And I'll start by telling you a little bit of a story. I was born in this generation of creators that started on TikTok during COVID. There's a large group of us. In this time, I think we saw the birth of people that would blow up in weeks. People that would go from living in a very ordinary life, whether they're in high school or college or maybe just working a trade job, they would see millions to tens of millions of followers gained in weeks to months. And there's a huge reason for why this is. I'm sure I'll make a video about it in the future, about TikTok's spotlight effect. But I even saw this at a small scale. I remember I gained around 200 to 300,000 followers in a month. And the amount of opportunity I got, I was someone living in Indiana. I went to Indiana University as a junior, and I had an opportunity to move out to Los Angeles and pursue this career as a edutainer, an entertainer, education person. I fully thought my life changed, and it has changed. This story is very common. There is a person out there that blew up, that moved to LA, that received a lot of money in the beginning. Like some of the checks people would see were in the six figures, and they would gain that in a month. I had a friend I remember who had this story and had a single check come in that was larger than their dad's salary. It was a crazy time. It was such an insane time. And this story became really common, and we kind of see it still today. This sort of, oh my gosh, I hit a trend on the internet. I'm gaining fame. I quit my full-time job, and hooray, I am now a full-time creator and identify as a creator in this space. The problem, though, is now that I've been in this space for 5 years, the amount of people I've seen who have hit this but slowly lose engagement, that trend that they blew up on no longer is trending. Maybe they blew up because they were doing dances and they were attractive and they kind of held on to that. And then people got tired of that. They lose that engagement, but they still keep this expensive lifestyle because they got used to it. I know dozens of this story, dozens. And the problem is, it's not that they go back to living a normal life. They've now inflated their lifestyle to where they're in a place of, one, debt. They're in another place of being desperate in the entertainment industry, which if there's one industry you don't want to be desperate in, it's this industry, because there's a lot of bad apples. There's bad managers. There's people that'll pressure you to do things. And that is a really scary place to be, and that is just not being told in this space. I tell you this story because I think it separates who the bottom 80% is and who the top 20% is. And it's actually less about the number of followers or views you get. There's a really good quote that I like that says, "Views today are really cheap, but brand is expensive." And I think that's important because social media in the post-TikTok era has shifted to being largely algorithmic. And that's amazing because it has had people like me, someone who had no experience in the filmmaking world or editing world, gain some sort of following. It is the best thing for people, for the ordinary person it's the best place in the world to give anyone the initial spark. But it's a really, really dangerous place to be because as fast as that spark can come, it can go. So who is the bottom 80% and who is the top 20%? Let's start with the top 20%. These are the creators who actually act like more like a traditional company. There are people that have a mission statement. There are people that have a brand. And I think there are people that use social media as a vehicle for a larger mission, and that social media itself isn't technically their job. For example, I'm trying to think of an example that's not Mr. Beast. You know what? I'll give you an example. For example, I love Michelle Khare, right? She is someone who is almost acting like a studio, a film studio. She's making films, and like YouTube and social media are the distribution platforms for her. If you're selling a product, like there's a design company in New York called Craig Hill that I love. They're designers. They're making like real life tools, and finding solutions to everyday sort of archaic like tools, like a wine opener, and they'll find the problems in a wine opener and make a new wine opener, but they use Instagram as the vehicle to tell you about that. And I think the top 20% think and act like a traditional company. They could be a creative production agency, they could be a filmmaking studio, they can have their own product, and they're using social media as a way to tell you about the product. The bottom 80% are the people that sort of identify solely as this influencer. And their job is built on the amount of views they get. And that's really it. Their job is sort of like identifying trends, seeing that the views are in the trends, and they sort of just hop on these different trends. And there's not really an identity. There's no mission. There's no mission statement. There's no brand to what they have. There's a really cool test that I heard that I really love. And I think it's called the silhouette test. And it sort of states, if you take any great artist and you silhouette them from their own work, will you still be able to tell it is their work? I actually heard this when actually in reference to Lionel Messi, the football soccer player, of like, you show any soccer fan, football fan, a highlight reel of Lionel Messi, but make Lionel Messi this black silhouette, and they will be able to identify him as this person. They will be able to, a true football fan will be able to identify that's Messi because of the way he changed the game, the way he moved on the pitch, the way he was able to score goals and analyze things. He changed the way that sport is played. In the same way, if I look at my idols, I look at Nathan Fielder, and you silhouette Nathan Fielder out of his work, the pacing and the way that he's able to make his work is him. There's a voice there. There's a brand there. Hans Zimmer. You don't have to tell me Hans Zimmer has composed a song or a film score. I will be able to tell now if it is Hans Zimmer, because he has an identity with his work. Casey Neistat. Casey Neistat, you silhouette Casey Neistat in a Casey Neistat vlog, you can tell it's Casey Neistat. And I think the top 20% are people that have this sense of identity. They have a brand. They have a mission. There's a reason they're creating what they're creating. The bottom 80% are people where you can kind of plug and play a creator into their... They have no silhouette. They have no identity. You can take their video, you could put someone else into their video, and you wouldn't be able to tell a difference. These are the people that follow trends. These are the people that maybe just post an aesthetic picture reel on Instagram, and that is their business. Maybe unless their aesthetic picture reel has like some sort of identity, I think it's that word, identity. The top 20% are people who have a strong identity. The bottom 80% are the people that don't. And right now, I think there's a lot of people that are comfortable in the bottom 80% that don't have an identity. But right now, they are being rewarded with money and clout and fame. So they're really comfortable. And on top of that, every signal they're receiving is that this creator economy is growing. I like to call a lot of the bottom 80%, this might be a little provocative, I like to call them walking billboards. These are people who wake up. Again, if you don't have a mission statement, you sort of like get PR packages, you promote those PR packages, you go to brand events. There's no backbone of what you're doing. You're basically just a billboard, and I think the world actually needs less of billboards. I got myself riled up there. I guess I'm passionate about this. I think I began by saying, like, I'm someone that is straddling this line between the 80% and the 20%. I think the 20, me to believe I'm in the top 20% is me believing that the work I've done, especially on YouTube, has a mission. And I do think there is an audience base that I've curated that knows that mission. But there's a part of me that believes I'm part of the bottom 80% because I am still playing the games that I have to, given that this is rented land. I have to play the algorithm games. I have to make I'm not charging anyone. I don't have like, I guess I don't have I don't have a direct line to this audience. It's not like I have a product I'm selling, or I guess it stems from a lot of imposter syndrome too. I don't know. Maybe I should really think into that. I think all to say, this year, specifically my job, by the end of 2026, I want to feel confident that I'm in the top 20%. I want to feel confident that I have a mission statement. I think my vision is there. I'm really confident in this vision, but it's hard for me to put into words. I want my audience to know this vision, and I want them to want to watch my videos regardless of if it's just served to them on an algorithm, but like they want to come to the channel and want to watch this experience because it feels premium to them. And I think there's a part of me that believes that if I can't crack that in 2026, I'm going to be in trouble. And I know what that trouble leads to because I've seen it dozens of times. I hope all this made sense. I really hope this all made sense. I guess I'll end this this part of it by saying, like, I was really careful to say in the beginning that anyone with a phone plus an idea plus consistency can make money off the internet. And that is something that is awesome about the decade that we live in and the state of the internet today. But I was really careful not to say that anyone with a phone plus an idea plus consistency can make a career off the internet. And right now, the internet is incredible at creating opportunity, but it's really hard to create stability. Versus maybe before, 10 years ago, opportunity was much harder, but stability was easier. I think we traded stability for opportunity on the internet. Stability isn't impossible, but it's harder. And for especially any creator watching this, I think in order to create stability, you have to think like a traditional company and like really ask yourself, what is your mission? Like what is your mission? What is your identity online? Or are you just part of this algorithm formula? Because if you're an experienced creator, you know that you can have a viral video by just following formulas today. And if you do that, then like, cool, you got views. Now what? If you're watching this channel, welcome. This is my outtakes channel, and I'm making it for a couple reasons. First, I love my main channel. I love the catalog I've built on my main channel, and this year specifically, we've got a lot of really cool ideas on that channel. But to be transparent with you, I think there's a lot of pressure on that channel, which is good, and I'm happy for that pressure, but I do want an outlet that feels no pressure. Shout out Luke Ike. I want a place where I could sort of talk out loud without feeling like I need to play a game to talk out loud. And there is no expectations of views on this. There's no expectations of money on this channel. It's really just a place where if I feel passionate enough to talk about a subject, an original thought, I want to say that out loud. Secondly, as I've grown, I've realized that talking out loud has helped me think. Oftentimes my ideas feel like a bunch of neurons in my head that are like flying everywhere. And if I talk about my ideas out loud, it's me grabbing these neurons and lining them up in a way that has to make logical sense. If I'm ever stuck writing, I'm finding myself that just talk about the idea out loud is a really good antidote for it. Third, I want to become a more concise speaker. And fourth, consider this sort of my journal entries. Today is January 4th, 2026. It'd be really cool to be able to, one, see if anything that I predict comes to fruition or what goes wrong. And honestly, just use it as a place to reflect. I'm sure a year from now, it'd be cool to look back on this video when I make another video saying, is my job going to be safe in 2027? So welcome to the Tejas Outtakes channel. And if you made it all the way here, you have no idea how much that means. A lot to come.